彩礼给了，婚房买了，戒指戴了，订婚宴吃了。
The bride price was given, the wedding house was bought, the ring was worn, and the engagement banquet was held. The man wanted to sleep with his fiancée, but in the end, she accused him of being a pervert. And the court ruled that the man was guilty of rape and sentenced him to 3 years in prison. The man refused to accept this verdict. He was just one step away from getting a marriage certificate. Everything that needed to be done had been done by both families. How could he be denied what was supposed to happen, yet end up being sentenced instead? What should he do now? So he filed an appeal. Now the second trial has ended. The man insists on his innocence and even cried twice during the trial. He has already been detained for 690 days. This time, more details have been revealed. The woman's hymen was intact with no fresh tears, and none of the submitted evidence tested positive for human semen stains, which has brought even more attention to this case. What is the full story behind the Shanxi Datong engagement rape case? In January 2023, Mr. Shi and Ms. Wu met through a matchmaking agency. The two dated for a few months and had a good relationship. Their interactions were quite intimate, kissing and hugging were common. On May 1st, Mr. Shi's family hosted the engagement ceremony for the couple, and gave Ms. Wu a bride price of 100,000 yuan and a 7.2-gram ring. The next day, following local customs, the bride's family returned gifts and everything seemed normal. But right after that, things took a sudden turn. On the very day that Ms. Wu hosted a banquet for Mr. Shi after dinner, they went to the wedding house to rest. During this period, perhaps due to youthful passion and excitement about their new marriage, Mr. Shi wanted to consummate their relationship early. What exactly happened? Only the couple knows. According to the information that has been disclosed so far, on May 2nd, when the couple was supposed to be resting in the wedding house, they suddenly had a serious conflict. Ms. Wu became emotionally devastated, crying hysterically and accusing Mr. Shi of raping her. As for Mr. Shi, he didn't react aggressively, he simply drove her back to her parents' house. While driving, he made a phone call to Ms. Wu's family. Ms. Wu's parents told him, "Your engagement is real, but your crime of rape is also real." It turns out that at around 6 p.m., Ms. Wu had called her mother, crying her heart out over the phone, telling her that she had been raped by Mr. Shi. But what exactly happened in the wedding house? Both sides tell completely different stories. Ms. Wu firmly insists that Mr. Shi forced himself on her against her will. She argues that even though they were engaged without a marriage certificate, they were not legally husband and wife, so it still counts as rape. Meanwhile, Mr. Shi's family believes that Ms. Wu made a big scene for one reason only. She wanted her name added to the property ownership certificate of the wedding house. During the dispute, Ms. Wu even almost set fire to the curtains in the house. The Shi family believes that she used the accusation of rape as leverage to gain control over them. At the same time, Mr. Shi's family revealed that on the day after the incident, Mr. Shi's mother wrote a guarantee letter. The elderly mother even signed it with her fingerprint, promising that as long as the couple got married and obtained a marriage certificate, she would add Ms. Wu's name to the property ownership certificate. However, on May 4th, Ms. Wu still reported the case to the police, and Mr. Shi was taken away by the authorities. The moment her son was taken away, Mr. Shi's mother immediately agreed to add Ms. Wu's name to the wedding house's property certificate, despite her not yet being officially married into the family. On May 6th, she even took Ms. Wu to the Civil Affairs Bureau, hoping they could quickly register their marriage and add her name to the property certificate, so that the couple could start their life together. But during this process, Ms. Wu changed her mind again and firmly refused to withdraw the case. As a result, the case proceeded into criminal prosecution, and Mr. Shi remained in custody, unable to regain his freedom. On December 25th, the first trial found Mr. Shi guilty of rape and sentenced him to 3 years in prison. Mr. Shi immediately filed an appeal. Now, the second trial is awaiting judgment. Some people say, they were engaged, the bride price was given, both families had already met. Wasn't it all just for the house? This woman is being dishonest. If this kind of case can lead to a rape charge, then men should just stop getting married altogether. Others argue, if there's no marriage, then it means the woman's consent still matters. Who knows what really happened at that time? Women are naturally vulnerable, and protecting them should always be a priority. Why shouldn't a woman have the right to protect herself? At first glance, both sides seem to make sense, but something still feels off. What do you think?
山西订婚强奸案的二审结果基本上没有什么悬念了。
The second trial result of the Shanxi engagement rape case is basically no longer a suspense. After all, the man has been detained for nearly 2 years. At this stage, if he is suddenly declared innocent, the defendant will definitely apply for state compensation. And from the time the man was detained until now, there are only a few months left before the 3-year prison sentence is completed. Given the reality of the situation, he is unlikely to plead guilty in exchange for leniency. After all, having endured for so long, with only a short time left until release, there is no reason for him to compromise and admit guilt. Just think about it. A 90-square-meter wedding house, a betrothal gift of 100,000 yuan, and yet the result was 3 years in prison. No matter how you calculate it, the man has suffered an enormous loss, an injustice beyond words. But if his parents had thought differently at the beginning and used that 100,000 yuan to pay the down payment for a BMW 5 Series, then rented an office space to register an empty shell company, the situation might have been completely different. In an 18th-tier small city, a young man driving a BMW and owning a company would no longer be labeled as a simple and honest, socially struggling bachelor, but would instead transform into a young entrepreneur who appears ambitious and merely delayed in love due to his career. Spending just 5,000 yuan per month to hire a few young and pretty female clerks, if the man had even a little social skill and wasn't an extreme introvert, he would surely have no shortage of women interested in him. After all, asking a female college student to marry an ordinary low-level employee might be considered marrying down, but for an ordinary female secretary to become the boss's wife, that is marrying up. In reality, very few people would choose to laugh happily in a 90-square-meter house, but there are always those willing to smile with tears in the back seat of a BMW. Whether the marriage would last is another matter, but at the very least, this arrangement would have been far more stable than exchanging a high-priced betrothal gift for a contractual-style marriage. There would be no need to wait until the engagement banquet. This man would have completed his transformation from a boy to a man right in the back seat of the BMW. Although these words may sound harsh, reality is often just that ruthless. Looking at this case, this man sincerely wanted to get married, but instead, the woman turned the situation into a transaction as calculated as tearing open a package with the precision of a fraudulent seller filing a complaint, even accounting for return shipping fees. In recent years, we have seen far too many cases of romance scams and honey traps. These schemes not only cost their victims dearly but also degrade the true essence of marriage. And marriage should be the foundation of social harmony and stability. Both men and women should despise those who deceive others for personal gain and use false promises to extract benefits. Ultimately, the essence of marriage lies in genuine emotions between both parties, not cold-hearted transactions of interests. Now, the man's family has paid the betrothal gift, held the engagement banquet, and invited relatives and friends as witnesses. Even the 7.5-gram gold ring has been given to the woman. But in the end, their relationship remains at the level of merely holding hands, an ordinary status. If this isn't a complete scam, then what is?
有些男网友他们表示不理解。
Some male netizens have expressed confusion. Since I have already gotten engaged to you, the bride price has been paid, and even the wedding banquet has been held, with only the marriage certificate left before we are officially married. Does this mean that the relationship between an engaged couple is already equivalent to that of a legally married couple? In some rural areas, according to traditional beliefs, once the engagement banquet is held, the bride is already considered the wife of the groom. Under such circumstances, why is the man still not allowed to demand a sexual relationship with his fiancée? If the woman refuses, is such a refusal reasonable? As a future wife, does she not have the responsibility to fulfill her marital obligations? After all, in the view of some people, marriage is not only about emotional connection but also includes sexual satisfaction. The refusal of a fiancé to fulfill this obligation on the eve of the wedding seems to leave some men puzzled. However, from the perspective of China's current legal system, society's understanding of marriage has undergone profound changes, and the law is gradually strengthening the protection of women's autonomy. Today, even after marriage, the law recognizes that women have the right to independently decide whether to engage in sexual relations. In other words, As long as a woman clearly expresses unwillingness, even within a marriage, if the husband forcibly engages in sexual activity, he may still be committing the crime of rape. This is because China's criminal law clearly defines rape as forcibly engaging in sexual relations with a woman against her will. Within this legal framework, even if a couple is legally married, if one party explicitly refuses and the other party forces intercourse, it is still a violation of the law. So, does a fiancé fall under the category of a woman? The answer is obviously yes. And when a woman explicitly states, "I don't want to," or "I am very tired today, I don't want to have sex," if the man still insists on forcing a sexual relationship, it meets the constitutive elements of the crime of rape as defined in criminal law.
If this engagement case in Datong is not handled properly, many men might really stop getting married. Because if they give bride price, buy a house, and in the end, not only fail to marry their wife but also end up serving 3 years in prison, then who would still dare to pursue marriage? On the 25th, the entire internet was watching the second trial of the Datong engagement case. The trial lasted for 4 hours, and the groom-to-be cried in court more miserably than Do-e, while the bride-to-be has never dared to appear in court for confrontation. I dare to say, if the final verdict is unfair, the marriage perspective of many men will change forever. The most baffling part of this case is, the forensic report is crystal clear. It shows that there is no male DNA in the underwear, and the hymen is intact. Yet, just because of some bruises on the woman's arm and signs of resistance like burning the curtains, the man was convicted of rape. As of now, the man has been detained for more than 690 days. The most ironic part? He already paid 100,000 yuan as bride price, bought a gold ring, and even signed a guarantee letter promising to add the woman's name to the house ownership. The only thing missing was a marriage certificate. And what happened in the end? The wedding night after the engagement banquet turned into a crime scene where the man was convicted. Do you understand what this means? Some people say this might be the most expensive honey trap scam in history. A matter that was supposed to be about marriage negotiations turned into a transaction. And because the bride price and house ownership didn't meet the woman's expectations, it escalated into a plaintiff versus defendant situation. The man simply wanted to start a family, but look at what happened. 100,000 yuan gone, 3 years of youth wasted in prison, and a lifelong label as a rapist. This case is not just a personal battle between two individuals, but a case that determines how Chinese men perceive marriage in the future. Will they still dare to walk the path of marriage? If the final verdict convicts the man, then in the future, men might start carrying a recorder on dates to prove their innocence. Before marriage, they might even sign an agreement specifying the number of times per month they must have marital relations, just to avoid being accused of rape later on. After this incident, many men will start re-evaluating the value and risks of marriage. If 100,000 yuan in bride price and half a house ownership became the final verdict for this case, feel free to leave your comment. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel for more similar content. See you in the next video.